Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and before we get started on tonight's story, real quick, I'm going to talk about Chilling, the awesome horror app that I'm partnered with. In case you haven't heard, every week I have new stories released over on Chilling. There's now over 1,000 stories on Chilling, with a bunch of other YouTube narrators and professionals to choose from, like some of my friends, like AudionicMusic. On Chilling, you can do things that you've never been able to do on YouTube, choose from 1,000 individual stories that are sorted into curated playlists, or you can even create your own playlist. On Chilling, we give you so much flexibility to listen to anything you want the way that you want. And this includes a chilling, game-changing feature, our ambient menu, where you can change the background sound of the story at any time to fit your mood. So go from raining to a campfire with the press of a button. It's totally revolutionary and you really need to try it. There have been a number of awesome updates to Chilling, such as the ability to download stories for offline listening and the new social feature, so now you can discuss your favorite stories with other users and your friends. So we're just getting started. Not only are we adding hours of new content every week, but original video content is also in the works. Chilling is evolving into a must-have for all horror lovers. So please go get started with your free trial over at Chilling and check out my personal playlist over there. And now, on to tonight's story. I never liked the crawl space under my house. It's dark, it's full of spiders. Smells of mildew and rotting wood. The ceiling's low, it makes me feel claustrophobic whenever I go there. I don't know what it's about specifically, but every time I open the door under the stairs to hastily shove some box inside, it feels like there's eyes watching me. Usually I don't go past the first few feet, and if I do, I hurry back out quickly, feeling my spine tingling with fear, hearing things moving in the shadows. I find myself rushing out of there too fast for my own good. I've hit my head on the low doorways leading out more than once, forgetting to duck. The house is a back split, so the crawl space is really big. It's the same square footage as an entire floor. The only difference is you have to bend down to go inside, since the ceiling's just a few feet high. Yesterday I had to call a cable guy to come over to hook up a line to my bedroom. The man said that he had to go down to the basement to see the connections. Take a quick look at everything, told me the fastest option would be to run a line through the crawl space, then fish a line up the wall from the east end of the house where the bedroom is located. I told him go ahead, since he seemed to know what he was doing. Then I went back upstairs to work on my laptop, hoping that his fiddling with the connections would be minimal so that I could stay online. After a while, I heard his drill, and I figured that meant that he was starting his work. I put my headphones on for a Zoom meeting and let him do what he had to do. I've never been the type to watch service people over their shoulder when they're doing a job. The meeting went longer than I expected, and I forgot about the cable guy until I got upstairs and saw that he hadn't finished the job like he was supposed to. There was a hole in the wall, but there was no cable, and there was no box. I went down to the basement and looked around for the guy, but he was nowhere to be found. Peeking my head into the dark crawl space, I tried to see if he was still in there, fishing the cable line. I called out his name, but there was no response. Still, I got that feeling like someone was watching me from the crawl space. Hair stood up on the back of my neck, and I tried to ignore the sensation, but it was difficult. Must have knocked off early, I thought to myself. I mean, it was late in the evening, after all. Maybe he would come back to finish tomorrow. And that's when I remembered that I had his number, so I could easily text him and ask what had happened. Thought about calling, but that just seemed easier. Jordan, hey, I'm the customer at the house on Everest. Are you coming back to finish the job? I didn't hear you leave. I was on a Zoom call. After waiting for a while for a response, I gave up on the guy, thinking that he had turned his phone off for the evening. I went back to my office and continued on a project I had been caught up on. My work went late into the night, and it was 3 a.m. by the time I finished up work, and I went to bed. As I walked towards the bedroom, I thought I heard a sound from below the floorboards. Like someone's fingernails dragging across the floor. Like someone trying to grab hold of something. Anything. To stop from being dragged deeper into the shadows. Nope. Best not think about those things before bed. I ignored the sounds and got in beneath the covers, putting in my earplugs so that I wouldn't hear them anymore. Just a raccoon or a squirrel, I told myself. Not a cable guy. Not a cable guy being murdered or buried alive. Closing my eyes, I tried to think of anything else. But failed. Eventually, I drifted to sleep. My dreams were uneasy and full of vivid nightmares, each one more terrifying than the last. And yet, when I woke up, I couldn't remember a thing. I was making breakfast when I heard the sound again. It was coming from beneath me, in the crawl space. I procrastinated for a few minutes before settling on what to do, and then I put on my jeans, a long-sleeve shirt, boots, a pair of thick gloves. I dug out an old dog crate into which I'd corral the pest making the noise. Money didn't grow on trees, and I'd already spent a fortune on the cable installation fees. This would have to be a DIY effort. I went down to the basement and took a long look at the door leading to the crawl space. My hands were shaking and my breath was coming fast and ragged as I thought about going in there. The scratching dirt-turning noise came again, louder this time, and I steadied myself. And then I reached for the doorknob and turned it. Suddenly the sound from within the crawl space stopped. Whatever it was had sounded briefly like a shuffling movement, like something crawling along on the ground, digging claws into the loose dirt. "Hello?" I called into the dark space. There was no answer. There was a bare light bulb hanging from the ceiling about 8 feet in. It was one of those simple fixtures attached to a chain which you pulled to make the light come on. It looked so close. I took a deep breath and exhaled steam, indicating the crawl space was, for some reason, much colder than the rest of the house. It should have been a clue, but I didn't think about it until later. Ducking my head down, I told myself to stop being so nervous. That spine-tingling sensation returned as I felt eyes on the back of my neck again. Trying to ignore it, I rushed those few steps forward towards the light bulb. All of my instincts were telling me to run now, as if something was creeping up behind me in the darkness, but I tried to ignore that sickening feeling. I reached my hand up desperately, groping for the chain to illuminate the darkness. I couldn't find it at first. The room was pitch black. Looking back, I saw the door was creaking shut behind me as if blown by a strong wind, but it never had done that before. It slammed closed suddenly, making a loud noise, causing me to jump, hitting my head on the ceiling. Damn it! Ow! Finally, my hand caught hold of the chain and I pulled it down. The light came on briefly, blinding me for a second, but then an instant later, the bulb burst, the hot glass shattering everywhere and bouncing off my closed eyelids as I flinched. When I opened my eyes, I saw the crawl space was drenched in darkness once again. There was a sound of movement again, this time from near the door, behind me where I had entered. It sounded big, and I realized suddenly that this was not a raccoon or a squirrel that I was dealing with. There was a person down in the crawl space with me. A silhouette moved in the darkness, ducking behind a pillar and out of sight. Whatever it moved like an animal, but it was the size and shape of a human being, crawling on all fours like the girl from The Ring and moving straight towards me now. My phone was in my pocket, the only light source I could think of, so I took it out quickly and turned the flashlight function on. Just as the light was about to hit the thing, it scuttled behind a pillar and out of sight. But I caught a momentary glimpse of a horrifying feminine face, black eyes, mouth full of rotten teeth. Immediately, the phone began to alert me of a low battery. Of course, the one time I forgot to charge the damn thing. My heart was pounding now after seeing what it was up against. Not a rat or a squirrel, but a thing with pale skin, and long black hair obscuring its features. Malnourished, emaciated, and with the vague look of a young girl moving crab-like through the shadows. At least that's what my mind was telling me I'd seen. I scurried further into the crawl space, away from the thing, terrified as I heard the sound of it moving constantly closer. It was impossible to see where it was in the shadows, but I made out a silhouette of something hunched over occasionally, crawling on all fours, ducking behind boxes and pillars to keep out of sight. It moved quickly with jerky, rapid strides, much faster than any human being. There was a wall coming up, I realized. I didn't have much more space to maneuver. The thing was closing in on me, and I had to come up with a plan. But before I could think of anything, I tripped over a lumpy pile. I thought it was a bunch of clothes at first until I looked down and saw more details in the light of my phone. It was the cable guy. His face was slack and his jaw hung down. A puddle of blood was leaking from his mouth and several dozen stab wounds could be seen on his chest and abdomen. A large drill was clutched in his hand as if someone had snuck up on him while he was working. The cordless drill had a massive drill bit attached to it, at least 2 feet long. I picked it up. I tested the trigger. It whirred to life, making a loud noise. "Step any closer, I'll drill your face!" I screamed at the thing in the crawl space. The scurrying sound kept coming, drawing nearer and nearer until eventually I could hear movement from right beside me and felt a cold hand grasp my ankle and squeeze. I screamed, pulling away with every ounce of strength I had, but the creature was strong. Its grip on my ankle was like a vice, and I thrashed and struggled to get away. I kicked it in the face again and again, hearing teeth breaking and bones cracking, until eventually the thing relented and released me. Jumping up, I banged my head hard on the ceiling again, hard enough to draw blood this time as it caught on a loose, rusty nail. I yelped in pain. I crawled away as fast as I could, dropping the drill on the ground and then running out of there with my head ducked down in a low, shuffling gait. When I got out of the crawl space, I slammed the small door shut behind me, expecting something to come and start banging and scratching at it the moment I did. But instead, there was just silence, as if I had just imagined it all. But I knew what I saw. Racing upstairs, I dialed 911 on my phone, but then was surprised to see flashing lights outside already. As it turned out, my neighbors had heard my screams and had called the police, not something you can count on every neighbor to do. I ran outside and told the cops what happened. My story was met with a few dubious looks, especially when I told them about the creepy girl and the dead cable guy, but they said that they would take a look. Feeling worried for their safety, I begged them to be careful. Bring lots of backup, I said. Whatever the girl is, she's straight from hell. Their eyes were concerned, and I overheard one officer whisper something to another. Looks like you got another 5150, he said quietly. I was ushered into the back of the police car to wait for word from inside. A few minutes later, they came back out. They were shaking their heads, looking at me with anger. The cable guy was with them, bleeding from his abdomen and clutching his wounds. They pulled me out of the back of the car, and I saw the cable technician's eyes flash black as coal for just a moment. And he snuck me a smile, but then his face went back to a look of outrage again. Yeah, that's the son of a bitch who tried to kill me. Down in the crawl space, just now. There's a dead little girl down there, too. Just look around, you'll find her. Who knows? There might be more of them down there, for all I know. I felt sick, dizzy, detached, like I was in a dream while awake. You got nothing to say for yourself? Cop asked before his partner slapped his arm. We don't want anything to hurt our chances of nailing this freak. They put me in handcuffs. I listened as they recited the words I'd heard 1,000 times in movies and TV shows, but never thought I'd hear for myself in real life. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. I'm up for a murder charge now. I mean, listen, I get computer time once a week, though. Allow me to do some research, and I'm finding out all sorts of things about my assailant. Maybe I can convince the judge that what happened to me was real. Looks like I'm not the only one who experienced these sorts of things. If you've seen anything like this recently, please tell me, okay? So I know I'm not alone, so the police and the courts know this is real. I didn't kill the girl. I didn't attack that cable guy. He's possessed by the same thing that was inside of her, and hopefully I can prove it before I get the death penalty. Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and I wanted to tell you thank you so much for watching today's video, or listening to tonight's episode of the podcast. We're at the hottest time of the year. I don't know how you guys deal with it, but for me, I like iced tea. And my wife sells tea, not the ice, but the tea part's there. The ice you can get on your own. Head over to etsy.com/shop/ivorymonocletea and check out some of the tea that my wife makes. There's even one that is my personal favorite. It's an incredibly strong tea called the Dark and Stormy Night. And if you ask, you can get a little dabbing MCP sticker that I made that she said would not look good on the bottle. And as always, I want to give a huge thank you to everybody who's out there on the Patreon, patreon.com/MrCreepyPasta. So a big thank you to Jordan Alexander Sanchez, Stephanie Butler, Reaper61167, Bobby Karman, Tristain Pelton, Chance Burnett, Diana Kraus, Atomaurus, Grand Moth the Milky, Big Smoke 369, Michael Mcivor, Captain Scurvy, SaltyIrishPoet, Estebean, Brayden Morris, Nate Kuhl, HorrorFan1212, hourminsec Time, Kyle Reznak, David Martin, scare-ington the Unkempt, Robert Malcolm, Angelus, Spanky, Snoochie Boochies, Seclude, Lupita Galvan, That Creepy Chick, Tyler Fletcher, Merxenum, Red Shadowcat, Xavier the Cheyenne, Demix, Shawn Cadieu-baker, 6 Gay Rats in a Trenchcoat, Turtleman, Rob Like Sharp Things, Chaos Arts, Cryolinian, Xavier Graffius, Lord Life's Best, Goreng Trimagasi, Maria Walker, Emily Mitchell, Crazy Kid, Mr. Marcus Blitz, Ika Limchok, Dirt Diver 030, Matt Bach, Voice of Sand, Coffee Zombie, Hidden Tiger, Shelly J, Jeremy H, Psychomel, Nana, Deleted Account, Melted Lake, Tully Sue, William King, David Miver, Michael Ortiz, Titanic Aries, Bardo Hawk 764, Lambda M98, Harley, Sashi Suzaku, Cronut 509, Kaylee Ambrose, Suji Campbell, Stricket, Azarine Fox, Freddy Krueger, Happy Birthday Jason Wilson, Lisa Cottrell, Caspian, Hades Nephew, Tater Chip, Acid System, Prozac and Pancake Appreciation Society, Benjamin Welvert, Here with the Sloth, Fester's Lampshade, Sky Harbor, Nico Kyle, Rafael Rodriguez, The Ginger Bros, Aaron Stormcrow, Daniel Polson, and Corey Kenshin. My goodness, the list is getting long. But hey, I appreciate all of you. And to everybody who watches and subs and likes and leaves comments and does all those things, sweet dreams.